And welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Chris Kelso. Good morning, everybody. And we have a great last segment planned. Before we do so, I want to remind everybody to go to thepriceofbusiness.com where you can catch this show and all of our past shows all the time. Up next, we have Donald Thompson, a great individual, by the way. More importantly, a great realtor up in the north side of town. He is with Keller Williams Realty. Donald, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great this morning, Chris. How about you?
Oh, doing very well. Cannot complain. You know, for all those first-time listeners, let us know about who you are and what you do.
Donald Thompson. I go by DT, kind of stands for an acronym of dedicated and trustworthy. And, I'm from this area, Spring Woodlands area. Graduated college in 2000, went to Texas A&M, class of 04. And just been kind of all around the world, all around different industries, including hockey in Mexico and back here in Houston, loving real estate.
That is awesome. Let me tell you, once an Aggie, always an Aggie. And let me tell you, Aggies are some of the best individuals out there in both real estate and in life in general. Hopefully my children, when they grow up, they'll decide to go in A&M, by the way.
I can't disagree with that, Chris.
And by the way, I'm a UT guy, but I'll tell you, I absolutely love the campus there at Texas A&M. I think it's one of the best ones, and more importantly, I just like what they teach and how the education comes out and how respectful all the children are that are still there today. So,
I'll tell you the one thing I always say: my whole family's Longhorns. I'm the only one that ever went to A&M in my family, so I turned out to be the good one. But I love Longhorns. I'm not one of those horned down kind of Aggies. Texas is obviously a fantastic school, just like A&M. A&M was just, for me personally, a better fit, and I wish they could play football again, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about, before we get started on the real estate, you got an interesting background, as you mentioned. You were actually down in Laredo, Texas, and you were actually promoting hockey down in Laredo, Texas. Talk about that story about what you were doing and then what drove you back here to Houston and get into real estate.
Yeah, I got my master's in sports management from Texas A&M also, and at one of my last classes my senior year, a guy named Glenn Hart came to one of my seminar classes and was talking about how he owned a hockey team on the border of Mexico in Laredo, Texas. And long story short, I went up, introduced myself to him, and of course, that Aggie Network bond is strong. He invited me down to Laredo, and I ended up staying for 5 seasons, 5 years, selling corporate sponsorships, moving up into management, and just running the business operations for Laredo Bucks hockey. It was kind of the equivalent of a double-A baseball team would be in baseball.
Wow, that is amazing. And I know when we were talking about this also, it was also very much a real estate play because where y'all ended up opening the stadium, was about actually bringing in the entertainment and then developing a lot of real estate around it, which ended up really growing that Laredo area.
It did. In 2000, Laredo and Las Vegas were two of the fastest-growing cities in America, I think. And Glenn, went down there, and he was always a hockey guy at heart. So he wanted to develop an arena. He did a lot of business with his natural gas down in the area. Every arena needs an anchor tenant, obviously, whether it's football, the Texans and Reliant, or wherever. He just liked hockey, and it took off. I mean, people loved it down there. But what he wanted was, when he built that arena, Chris, it was way outside of the center of Laredo, nothing around it. And people were thinking, why are you building an arena out there? He had the foresight that would be the center of Laredo one day, so he purchased all the land around it. And that's where he ultimately had success. The hockey was successful, the arena was, but it was a real estate play at heart. So today there's car dealerships, restaurants, there's a baseball stadium on it, hotels on it. And that was a really cool real estate play that I was kind of watching without realizing I would be in real estate one day and hopefully doing the same thing.
And and nowadays you are actually, one of the things we talk about, you're one of the up-and-coming individuals up there, obviously, with Keller Williams Realty. Talk a bit about the market right now here in Houston. I mean, obviously, then you finished that up. You've gotten back into real estate here in Houston. You're up in that Spring Woodlands area where you've gone, where you've been, living for a long time. How is the market doing right now?
It's doing good. People talk about these oil prices all the time, but I always say, we're having our best year yet. There's so many people moving to this area, especially the Montgomery County area that I do a lot in Magnolia and Conroe as well. I have a client who said in the next 10 years, Magnolia itself will get about 250,000 new people, and it's already starting. I've been saying Magnolia is the next frontier for a while. It's really the now frontier. Price points are still strong. We're getting multiple offers on price points all the way up to 450s still for sellers. And it's going real good, and the interest rates are helping that out for sure.
Oh, and we talk about it all the time. We're in that really neat area. Oil and gas now back up to 50, so we do see a recovery coming in from the oil and gas side of things. But one of the things Houston has been really strong at is the real estate market in Houston has maintained its strength. And while we have a little bit of inventory increase, we are still below what we call an average market. I mean, we went from sizzling hot to still a hot market. And that's not very often you can say that.
No, I came in at a good time to experience that. We talked about it on the other show that if sellers are still just trusting their realtor, and the realtor obviously knows what they're doing, and they're pricing that home correctly, and obviously if it's in good condition, they still go quick. But you made the point the other day, even if the house isn't in the best condition, you can still price that house properly, accordingly, to still sell quick. So location, everyone talks about, still important, but really price and condition, when sellers just trust, they win. And it's fun.
and that's something very important you talk about. It's a matter about trusting an individual like yourself who represents your sellers very well, because one of the things we tell everybody, and we see this all the time, is if you price it right at the very beginning, your probability of getting close to that value or higher is higher. If you overprice it in the market, we spoke about this as well, you can actually it can be a big detriment to the property in which you're representing.
There's a stat out there, and I don't have it in front of me to know exact, but basically if you price your house right at market value, 60% of potential buyers will walk through the door. But if you price that thing 10% above market value, which people think you have to do to, quote, give you room for negotiations, which is not true, only 40% of potential buyers will actually walk through your house if you price it above. Some sellers will strategically price it a little bit below market value. They say that if you market your home about 5 to 10% below market value, 75% of potential buyers will walk through the door, and that's the name of the game. You got to get butts in the door to see what you have, and then there's certain things that I do inside the home that market the home past just what you see on the MLS sheet that really works. And, price and condition again, and they will sell.
And you're right. When you do make that one activity of maybe pricing it 5% below, you mentioned 75% of the markets can walk through. That's what creates your multiple bids. Exactly. That's what individuals come in and say, you know what? I like this property. Again, multiple bids are created when you've priced it right and you've got a lot of people and a lot of activity that are vying for those same opportunities.
That's right. We almost call it the auctioneer effect. And not only do you end up getting back to that market value and most times exceeding the real market value because of the multiple bid offer situation, but you also find the best buyer. One of the things I look at whenever a seller has multiple offers, and they're all about the same price, my seller will eventually turn to me and say, well, Donald, they all look the same to me. Which one would you go with? The first thing I look at, again, if all terms are about equal, is what lender is that buyer using? I know that if using someone like you, Chris, obviously, and not just saying that because you're on the radio, but you're the kind of lender that knows how to get deals done on time versus these big banks. And, we won't talk about those, but you don't have a comfortable feeling with a bigger bank as you do someone like, yourself or a small local mortgage company. That's huge.
We tell this all the time. Real estate is still personal. The transaction is still personal. The relationships that agents have with other agents, that agents have with the entire supply chain of the real estate community is still extremely important. It's extremely personable. And we're coming up against time in this segment. Time flies when you're having fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, Donald, how can we reach you if you don't mind?
Yeah, no one really remembers a phone number, so I just give my website. It's DonaldTRealtor.com.
That is DonaldTRealtor.com. Donald, thanks a lot for being on The Price of Business this morning.
Hey, thank you, man.
For all those listening to The Price of Business, we are up against time. We really enjoyed it. Check out this show and every other show on priceofbusiness.com. And till next time, we are out.